Hey guys, it's my playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3. I've recently completed it for the first time, so I thought it'd be a good time to put together a party setup video. I did actually put a party setup video up during the early access phase, but there have been quite a lot of changes, namely the fact that you can now change your companion's class, and you can also multi-class, so that provides a lot more options in terms of optimal party setup. Just disclaimer, just to make the point that there's not like a perfect party. A lot of this is personal preference, and part of it is also just role playing in terms of what you enjoy. So it's not necessarily a right or wrong. It's just what I found quite helpful and also fun on my playthrough. So I thought I'd share it with you guys. This is what I've completed with a good playthrough. So I've obtained Halsin as opposed to Minthara, and I won't give away too many spoilers, but in terms of the progression of the characters, for example, Shadowheart followed her good path as opposed to inverted commas evil path, and so on. So in my second playthrough, I'll probably try something different, but I thought I'd just run through a brief kind of summary of how I've set up my team and what has really worked for me and has also been quite fun to play. So let's just go through the party members and how I've set them up. So we are in the inn in Baldur's Gate, nice comfortable surroundings, much better than the camps outside. So let's have a look at our party members. So first of all, we have my custom character, or Tav. This is quite interesting character because he provides the more options for the surrounding party member slots. One issue in the game is that you only have 4 party members in total, and one of those obviously your own created custom character, unless you go with one of the origin characters, which is what I've done in my second playthrough. But otherwise there are limited options, so you will have to double up or perhaps sometimes triple up the use of your party slots in terms of what each party member is doing. So what I've done is, for my main character, is set him up. I've chosen a Dwergar, Dark Dwarf. First of all, I think maybe the shorter ranges have been underrepresented in this game, so I thought that would be interesting, and also provides a bit of variety, and I think Dwarf's just fun to play as well. So as you can see, I have multi-classed him. Put 9 levels in Paladin with a subclass Oath of Vengeance, and 3 levels in Bard for College of Swords. So that really has given me a lot of options in terms of what I can do with him, because in terms of the Paladin side of things, so that gives a lot of options in terms of tanking. He's also pretty handy in melee combat, and also offers a lot of healing options as well. And in terms of the Bard as well, again, more healing options, more utility. Also, jack of all trades means that he's pretty good at a number of different skills. He also has ability for disarming traps and lockpicking, which means that I don't necessarily need a specialist rogue, particularly if I have Shadowheart to cast guidance as well, which can help those ability rolls as well. So really quite a useful character to have in the party all the time, because he can tank, he's good at melee damage, he can protect the other party members as well. He can also heal and provide support, and also pick locks and disarm traps as well. So bit of a jack of all trades, and it makes sense really, given the fact that he is in the party all the time, and it allows my other party members to be a bit more specialized in terms of his weapons and armor. So I've given him heavy armor as he is tanking, and in terms of his weapons, given him a warhammer and a shield. So again, more AC and defense. In terms of his spells, so he's got access to a wide variety of support and healing spells as a paladin, and also from a bard as well. So his role in the team is essentially tanking, utility, healing, support, and also with a high charisma of 16, He's also pretty good in terms of persuasion and conversation checks as well. So very useful to have as the main party member. And as you probably aware, both the Paladin and the Bard classes run off charisma, so it's useful to actually multi-class those two. So that's the number one position, and I'm going to sort of my first team is Lae'zel, Shadowheart, and Gale. So I'm going to go through those first of all. So then we have Lae'zel. So she's obviously Githyanki. I've left her in her original class of fighter. Subclass I've chosen Battle Master, which is really good in terms of outright damage. Weapons I've given her two-handed broadsword and just focused her on outright melee damage. That's her role in the team. In terms of armor, left her with medium armor with the Githyanki armor. First of all, I think it looks really, really good on her, and I think it's just really unique armor that the Githyanki wear, and particularly with their body type, it looks really cool, and it's just so different to the different types of armor that you get. And with her focusing on damage, I think medium armor works well for her. She's got high strength, so she can do high damage as well. I haven't really subclassed her into anything which involves magic, because I just wanted her to focus on melee damage. So her role in the team is essentially just melee damage, really, two-handed weapon. So that's her focus. Then we have Shadowheart. So Shadowheart is probably, as a cleric, probably have the widest range of options in terms of what you can do with her. So for this particular playthrough, I've kept her as a cleric, subclassed her into the light domain, which is quite useful in terms of damage spells, which means that I can kind of keep her more towards the back and focus not just on healing and support, but also damage as well. So for her, I mean, I don't really use her melee weapon much, but since her whole story is based around sort of spears, I've kept her with that if she does need to do any melee damage. But her main focus is really her spells, wide range of healing spells, wide range of support spells, and as a light domain cleric as well, she's very good also in terms of ranged casting damage as well, AoE spells as well, which is quite useful to have her in that dual role. So that's how I've set her up. And her role in the team is essentially healing, support, and also range damage as an offensive caster as well. And then I've got Gale. He's probably my favorite party member in terms of his dialogue. I think he's just a very funny, very articulate, a lot of good role-playing his backstory as well. It's very interesting, as is with all of them, to be honest, but particularly the top three that I've chosen, I think their backstories are particularly interesting. Gale I've left as a wizard, and subclassing in evocation, which really focuses on outright damage. One thing that's really useful of the evocation subclass is the AoE damage will not affect your party members, and that's really helpful because you'll often find yourself putting your melee party members forward, and both them and the enemy are all mixed together, and you want to send in those fireballs, but you don't want to damage your own party members. So having that ability with the evocation subclass is really helpful. It means you don't really need to hold back, and you can throw in those AoE spells into the fray and do the damage without affecting your party members. So that's really helpful. Gale, predominantly, I've just kept him for ranged damage as an offensive caster. That's essentially how I've kept him. Perhaps some support here and there, but predominantly just range damage I can just leave him specializing in that, and he does that particularly well in this role. So that's really my main team that I've been using most of the time, and then the other characters I've swapped in as and when I wanted, mainly when I wanted to progress their story, or just for a bit of variety, really. So next we have Astarian. So Astarian, he is a high elf, and his original class is a rogue, but what I've done is I've multi-classed him, 9 levels in rogue and 3 in ranger, and what that does is given him a few support and healing spells, which again allows him to just supplement the healing when we don't have Shadowheart in the party. He and my main character, the paladin, can just add to the healing, and that just helps out a bit. In terms of weapons, I mean, he's actually pretty good at both melee and ranged combat. I've left him with short swords in terms of melee combat, and with a longbow in terms of ranged combat. His subclass for rogue, I've chosen assassin, which allows him to get the initiative on opponents when they haven't yet started their turn, and in ranger subclass I've chosen is hunter, and I think that just broadens him out a bit in terms of what he can do, and the advantage of that is podcasting rogue and rangers, they both work off dexterity as well, so that's quite helpful. In terms of spells, I haven't really subclassed him into any sort of spell casting role, but his role is predominantly melee damage and range damage where possible through sneak attacks. Also the invisibility spell is really useful, so you can just creep in and get behind opponents. And other than that, obviously utility when he is in the team, he's going to be the best person to unlock chests and disarm traps, so that's his role. Then we have Jaheira. I mean, we get Jaheira fairly late in the game, towards the end of Act 2. So her role earlier in the game will be slightly limited. To be honest, I haven't really used her that much compared to the other characters. The reason I mean, she starts off as a druid. The reason I put her into a ranger is because we already have a druid with Halsin, if you're following the good playthrough. So I switched her over to a ranger just to give a bit of variety. Subclass I've chosen is Gloomstalker, and weapons predominantly her longbow, mostly focused on ranged damage, armor, just light armor as a ranger, and her role is mainly just ranged damage and a bit of support in terms of healing, but to be honest, I haven't used her that much, just put her into that third slot where required, or just for a bit of variety. And then we have Wyll. So Wyll is obviously a human. His original class is Warlock, and that's actually quite key to his story, the fact that he is assigned to, or has a devil assigned to him, and that's a big part of his story. Don't want to give too much away. However, personally, I'm not a big fan of Warlock class in terms of its utility. So what I did is mixed it up with Sorcerer. So giving him 9 levels in Sorcerer, subclass Wild Magic, and 3 levels in Warlock. So he still has access to his Eldritch Boss and all that Warlock good stuff. And I found that I used him a lot more once I did this, because through the Sorcerer he has access to much wider range of spells, and he can also play around with his spells as well with the meta magic. So that's made him a lot more interesting. I thought that was a good way to actually play him in terms of spells. I mean, as the Warlock and Sorcerer class, the spells are rather limited compared to the Wizard and the Cleric, for example. But again, combining the two, particularly with the meta magic as well. He is quite handy to have in that 4th slot if you want a bit of variety. His role is predominantly ranged damage through AoE spells. That's predominantly his role when I am playing him. And then we have Karlach. So I've left her in her original class. So she's obviously a tiefling barbarian. I've left her as a barbarian in that role. Subclass of you berserker, that gives you an extra attack when you are raging. Weapons, I mean, I kept it to 2-handed weapons. I think for a barbarian, you really want to focus on maximum damage. I've given her medium armor, so she's not kind of too weighed down, but she's not too vulnerable either. Her role essentially is just to replace Lae'zel when I'm not using Lae'zel in that 2nd slot, just to focus on melee damage. That's how I've used her. Then we have Halsin, which he's only going to be available through a good playthrough. So he is a wood elf. His first class is druid, and I've kept him as a druid. Subclass Circle of the Moon I've chosen. With Halsin, I mean, he's quite useful as a sort of sportcaster. The druid has wide range of both damage spells and also healing and support spells as well. Obviously, the big advantage of the druid is the wild shape ability and the ability to get into sort of different areas. To be honest, I haven't used that so much. I might use it more in under the playthrough, but when I have used him, I've used him in that 3rd slot, just to kind of, again, in that support role, range damage and healing as well. But when you do need to, when you want just a bit of variety, or you want to get into those sort of small spaces, the wild shape ability is really the big advantage of having a druid in your party. So moving on. And then we have Minsc. So Minsc he's the last character you're going to get, and you get him quite deep into Act 3. So as a result of which, I haven't really used him that much during the main game, and I also feel that his storyline is rather limited as well. But like I said, it's a good sort of blast from the past and the original Baldur's Gate games. What I've done, his original class is a ranger, but because I've already got what's the name, Jaheira as a ranger, I've used him as a monk, Way of the Open Hand, just in that 2nd slot for focusing on melee damage. I've given him a staff in terms of weapons, but focus of the monk is obviously not on weapons, it's on all armor. In fact, it's focused on the monk abilities and that melee damage. I think playing with a monk, I've never historically been a big fan. It's a bit more interesting in Baldur's Gate 3 because they have made it quite fun to play with, but I haven't used it that much, probably just because I'm not used to it that much. But it's a nice change just to have if you want something slightly different in that 2nd slot. So I've used him, when I have used him, predominantly for melee damage in that 2nd slot. So that essentially is how I've set up my party. So
how many dies a day?
So main character, Paladin Bard, giving the options of melee damage, healing and support, and also utility, and then that gives a lot more options, also conversation as well, but that gives a lot more options for the supporting party members to play around him. So yeah, that's what's worked for me on my first playthrough. Probably try something different in the next playthrough, but yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know what worked for you. A lot of it is not right or wrong, it's just what you find, what works for you, and also what's fun in terms of role playing. And really looking forward to playing this game a few more times and trying out different party setups. So hopefully you enjoyed that. If you did like the video, please do give a like. And if you'd like to see more videos as well, please do subscribe to the channel as well. And I'll see you on the next one.